Hi guys, Jimbo here, the driving test guy, New South Wales, helping you pass your New South Wales driving test first go, hopefully. Okay folks, just a quick recap what this channel's about. It's helping you pass your New South Wales driving test first go. And in order to do that, you need to be good. And to be good, you need knowledge. And to get the knowledge, I want you to watch my How to Pass series of videos, okay? And then once you've done that, then you can watch the tip videos and then the mock test videos. Because basically, if you watch the mock test videos first, then you get all these questions. Why do you do this? What happens if I do that? When it's all answered in the How to Pass. So watch them first, get the training, and then watch the mock test videos, because then it all makes sense. Okay, folks, so if you've used my videos, passed your driving test, and super happy, and you would like to thank me by buying me a coffee, the link is below. And for those who've already done that, thank you so much. Okay, so today's video is another tip of the week video. It's about when to do a blind spot head check when moving into a left turning lane or when moving into a right turning lane. And remember, when it comes to marked head checks, 3 strikes and you are out. And missing one of these marked blind spot head checks when moving into a turn lane can be the difference between passing and failing. And remember, on this channel, we're winners and we like to pass first go, hopefully. So it's important that you know when you need to do a blind spot head check when moving into a turn lane. Now, to work out when we need to do this blind spot head check, we need to understand why we do it. Now, the reason why we do it is because sometimes when you're about to move into a turn lane, there could actually be a car that's behind you in your blind spot area that's come up the side. So it gets down to, is it possible for a car to come up the side? If it is, well then we'll need to do the blind spot head check. And that's both on the left side when we move to left and on the right side when we move to the right. Okay, just another situation where you'll need to do a blind spot head check when moving into a turn lane, and this one's often more so on a left turn, is when there's actually a marked bike lane beside us. And in order to move into the turn lane, we have to cross over that bike lane. So just before we do that, certainly do the mirrors indicate, but check over your left blind spot, do the blind spot head check before you move over. Okay, and the examiner will mark that check as well. Okay, let's have a look at a few examples of when we will need to do this blind spot head check.
Okay, so in our first example, we're making a right-hand turn and we need to move into a right turning lane. Now, if you look at the diagram on the screen, we are the yellow car B. And beside us, just before the turn lane, is a painted white striped island. Now, these islands can be driven over, and in this context, it is quite legal. So because this traffic island that's on our right side can be driven over, before we move into the turn lane, we need to do a right side blind spot head check to make sure if someone's there or not. And this check will be marked by a driving test examiner. Okay, so we're going to be making a right-hand turn up at the traffic lights. Now, the right-hand turn lane that we're going to move into is this one here. Now, you can see before our turn lane, there is a painted island. Now, just so you know, those things that are sticking up, they just flap in the wind. They can be driven over. And before our painted island, there is another right turn lane. Now, it is possible that someone in that first right turn lane just drives straight ahead over the island into the second right turn lane, right at the same moment that we move into it. So before we move into that second right turn lane, certainly check our mirrors, but also do a right side blind spot head check, which your examiner will mark. So we check our mirrors, check over our right shoulder, knowing nobody's there and it's safe to move into the right turn lane.
Okay. In our next example, it's similar to the first example, but this time we're turning left and we have a painted traffic island on our left.
Okay, so in the diagram, we are the yellow car. We intend to turn left. We've got our signal on and we're about to move into the left turning lane. But beside us is a painted island. And you can see in the diagram, there is a blue car that's coming up our left side, driving over the painted island. Now, because this is a possibility, before we, as the yellow car, move into the left turn lane, we must, in addition to mirrors indicate, check over our left shoulder and do a blind spot head check. And this check will be marked by your examiner. So as you can see in the video, there's a painted island at its widest point will allow a car to fit up the side. Check our mirrors, indicator, but check over our left shoulder, do a blind spot head check, which is marked by your examiner.
Okay, so in our next example, when needing to do a blind spot head check when moving into a turn lane, we're again looking at left turn. Now, in this example, instead of there being a painted island beside us, there's an edge line. Now, on the other side of this edge line is flat road that can be driven on, is wide enough to fit a car, and there's nothing parked there blocking the path.
Okay, so in the diagram, we are the yellow car intending to turn left, and we need to move into the left turn lane. But beside us is that edge line and that shoulder area where the blue car is. So before we move into the turn lane, we'll do mirrors, indicator, but also do a left blind spot check. Okay, so we're turning left. We've got the edge line on the left and the space there where the shoulder is. It's flat, can be driven over, wide enough for a car, and there's no parked cars there blocking the path. So before we move into the turn lane, we're going to do mirrors, indicator, and check our left blind spot check. Then move into the turn lane, and the examiner will mark that check.
Okay, so in our next example, we're turning left again. And instead of being room for a car to fit up the side, there's a marked bicycle lane that we have to cross over to get into the left turning lane.
Okay, so in the diagram, we're the yellow car. We want to turn left. We need to move over into the left turning lane. But between our lane and the left turning lane, there is a bike lane. Okay, so we're turning left and beside us is the bike lane. Now, before we move over that bike lane, mirror indicator, check the shoulder, then move over the bike lane, and that left blind spot head check is marked by your examiner.
Okay, so we've looked at a few examples where we need to check over our shoulder and do a blind spot head check when moving into a left turning lane and when moving into a right turning lane. Now, we're going to look at some examples when we do not need to do a blind spot head check when moving into a turning lane.
Okay, so we're turning right. We've got a right turn lane coming up, but just before the right turn lane is a raised, hard, medium strip traffic island. Now, because it's raised, it prevents cars driving over it. So we can move into the right turn lane without needing to do a right side blind spot head check. So just the usual mirrors, indicators, and the examiner will not mark a right side blind spot head check in this situation.
In the next example, where we do not need to do a blind spot head check, we're looking at turning left, but instead of being a painted island or an edge line there where a car could come up the side or a bicycle lane, we're up against a left hard raised curb, which prevents cars coming up the side. So if we get in tight with that, we will not need to do a blind spot head check when moving into that left turning lane.
Okay, so we're making a left turn up at the traffic lights. And if you have a look right here, the beginning of the turn lane is right up against this left curb. So there's no way anyone is going to come up our left side and into our blind spot area before we move into the curb. So I won't need to do a left side blind spot head check just prior to moving into this turn lane. So just mirrors, indicator, and no left side blind spot head check will be marked by your examiner.
Okay folks, so that's it for today, for today's video. Today we dealt with when to do blind spot head checks when moving into a turn lane and when we don't need to do them. So hopefully that helps you with your understanding of when we do head checks and when we don't need to. So if you're new to the channel, please press the subscribe button and the notification bell. And if you like the video, please press the like button. And always, don't forget, remember, stay safe.